Hey everybody, and Tony here with yet another Nicktoon review of one that I've watched also when I was age 7 and one that I enjoyed very much, mostly because it was well known for being a great combination of comedy and a little bit of the horror elements, and at times has the gross out elements of Ren and Stimpy. And I'm, of course, referring to Our Real Monsters, which was created by Klasky-Csupo and Peter Gaffney and aired on Nickelodeon from October 30th, 1994 to December 7th, 1997. Now, this was yet another Nicktoon that I caught ever since I was 7 because, well, I was more of a Rugrats fan back then and I had no idea that this show was created by the same people who did Rugrats. And what I've realized about this show is that this didn't go on to go as long as the Rugrats did, but it maintained a certain cult following, especially to a lot of fans of the monster genre, or even fans of horror comedies, or even fans of mostly gross out humor. And, well, every time I watched it, I felt so enamored by the characters and just how many situations they get themselves into, especially when they go up to the human world just to scare people, mostly because it's all part of their course in this monster school that they attend. So, the big question is, how well does Our Real Monsters hold up? Let's find out. Now, starting with the story, it basically chronicles the misadventures and even the adventures of three young monsters by the name of Oblina, Crumb, and Icus, who attend this monster academy that specialize in scaring humans and anyone who has flesh and bones and are mostly of the normal world. And through that, they go on this very special chair that's almost like a Ludovico technique type of chair and show what they've done. And, well, they're basically graded on their progress by their head teacher, the Grumble. And every single moment that Icus, Oblina, and Crumb go through, they basically have a lot of exploits, not just in the human world, but also in the monster world as well. And at the same time, this show, as I've mentioned before, has a lot of the gross out humor that can be found in Ren and Stimpy, and it uses it really well. And also, even though the horror element isn't played up so much, it at least makes up for it in terms of slapstick humor and the aforementioned gross out humor, and even a lot of humor involving pop culture and bodily functions, which was pretty much the standard of Nicktoons at the time, with a lot of Nicktoons being very well known for outlandish humor and humor that you wouldn't be caught dead, showing a lot of kids even to this very day. Yeah, it's really safe to say that Our Real Monsters type of humor in its story really is totally out there, and I could really tell that even the creators of the show managed to get some tips from Ren and Stimpy. One critic said about this show is that it may not really have the class and wit of likes of Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life, but it still managed to hold out well, and it still managed to be very entertaining towards kids and even kids at heart. Ultimately, Our Real Monsters story is one that's quite simple in premise, but very enjoyable in its execution, as we really get to see them go through a lot of crazy adventures and a lot of madcap hijinks ensue along the way. And then we get to the animation. Now, the animation in this show is a lot more, I would say, jagged and a lot more dark than the likes of its predecessor, Rugrats, and even its successors, the Wild Thornberrys, and As Told by Ginger. In fact, as a sort of horror comedy, it makes use of a lot of dark colors and, well, weird jagged lines, and even a lot of imagery that can be very kind of unsettling from time to time, but it really heightens the show really well. The biggest highlights in the animation are when Crumb, Ickis, and Oblina go on their scare mode. Now, Ickis's scare tactic is that he enlarges himself like the Incredible Hulk, and his eyes grow red, and, well, his fangs grow sharper. That ultimately terrifies the victims involved with his type of scares. And Crumb's usually involves like his putrid odor and his eyes doing all these weird things. And Oblina usually involves shape-shifting and even turning her insides out. And that's where the animation really shines for me. And not to mention, even the gross out scenes do really, really well. And you could really tell that they've even taken some tips from the likes of Ren and Stimpy and how they implemented the gross out humor. Like, you have a lot of slime, you have a lot of sludge being thrown in the mix, and a lot of other gross out stuff. But it's still very well animated, and it manages to make a great use of its dark color palette to really fit the show's tone really well. And then you have the music. Now, I felt that the show's opening was really catchy, and it really gets you very invested of what the show is going to be about. It starts off with something that's ominous with the ringing of the grandfather clock. And then once you've seen everything around that haunted mansion, you start to see a figure coming in. And then out comes Ickis, Crumb, and Oblima, and then the music really intensifies. And it manages to really make a great use of intensity without being too scary, but it manages to feel lighthearted at the same time. And you even see a lot of montages of Ickis, Crumb, and Oblima scaring the crap out of different people. And then you see kids running out, the Grumble smiles, and all the monsters cheer up. And then before we get to see the closing of this opening, we see the Grumble yelling something at the three monsters, and then we proceed with the scream with the title "Ah, Real Monsters," and then there's a CD scratch, and then Crumb has a slight laughter at the end. So the show's opening really does get you pumped up of what's going to occur in this show, and not to mention the show's ending is equally as catchy, as it really does play up the horror comedy elements of the show really well. It consists of an organ-like instrument that plays itself throughout the entire credits, and even the show's overall music does have a sense of something ominous, but at the same time it can also go into more happy-go-lucky routes as well. So the show, in terms of its music, really does make great use of the horror comedy genre, and it manages to really get viewers excited of what's going to happen next. And now we get to the characters, starting off with Ickis. Now, Ickis is a magenta monster whose distinguishable features are that he has long ears, a football-shaped head, almost like Arnold, and has a triangular body with, well, feet that almost look like elf shoes. At times, other people think that he's a rabbit, which really annoys Ickis and really makes Ickis feel rather insecure about it. And like I said, his most distinguishable scare feature is that he can inflate like the Incredible Hulk and become even more ferocious, thus scaring anyone that goes near him. At times, Ickis is very jovial, eccentric, easily excited, and extremely emotional. And at times he can prove himself to be quite a leader, but at most times he is quite the character he was very enthusiastic, very emotional, and at times easily agitated, and almost can have the tendency to snap whenever he feels like it. And then you have Crumb, who's a very gross character, but at the same time, he's very mellow and down to earth. His most distinguishable feature is that he has eyes that are held by his own hands, and well, he's also pudgy, and he's also an orange monster that is also very gross. So every time he scares someone, he gives off this very putrid stench that makes anybody run away as far as they can. And at times he also makes great use of his eyes in order to frighten a lot of his victims as well. That's what really makes Crumb a very fun character. Crumb is also like very fun-loving and very happy-go-lucky and very mellow, even though he is extremely gross. And then you have Oblina, who is pretty much the straight woman of the group. Now, Oblina is very well known for her posh British accent, and according to Christine Kavanagh, she tried to make Oblina sound like a sort of British Agnes Moorehead, which she really does well, which I'll get to the voice acting much later. And so Oblina is, well, to a lot of people, a stick in the mud. Of course, she does prove herself to be a very intellectual type of monster. She is book smart, and she is very much someone who is rather feminine and rather posh and prim and proper. In fact, it's no surprise that she comes from a very wealthy family, given her upbringing and given the fact that she tries to do her very best in school and how she tries to really uphold the system of education in her experience as a monster. And, well, she may not be the most fascinating character of the entire Nicktoon universe, but she's still a very good character. In fact, I would like to say that the bond between Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina is so almost like the bond shared with Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger, that these are three students banding together and even learning the ropes and even getting themselves into a lot of situations, whether they be chaotic or full of adventure, and even the relationships or even the sort of similarities that they have with Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger can be kind of scary yet very interesting, because these are characters that go on a lot of adventures and a lot of misadventures and even like get themselves into a lot of situations. And of course they attend the school in which they specialize in the craft that they use, mostly the craft of the supernatural. What with Harry, Ron, and Hermione specializing in witchcraft and wizardry, and Oblina, Crumb, and Ickis specializing in scaring the crap out of people in terms of them coming out in the death of night. And then you have the one who definitely steals the show, the Grumble, who serves as the head teacher of this monster academy that all the monsters attend. Now, Grumble is a very loud and very demanding, and he's just extremely hilarious as well as a character. I mean, he has a lot of memorable lines to give to the monsters, and at first, when you see him, he is rather prim and proper and very eloquent and very much someone who knows what he's doing, but cross his path and he'll really wail it out on you, verbally and psychologically. He's definitely someone that you don't want to mess with because, like I said, on one side, he's very eloquent and very much a charmer and very much someone who really knows what he's talking about. But once you get on his bad side, that's when you really have to be at his mercy. And he's definitely very entertaining, and he's a character that has pretty much become a fan favorite and one that has become very much a mascot for a lot of comedic characters. His most distinguishable features are that he has a pale shade of green with like a green with greenish grayish hair, has a red pointy nose, red lips, and he has 8 legs with each of them wearing 8 ladies' shoes, all of them being red. And, well, his most, scary feature is that he knows how to intimidate students. Like, yes, he does have a calm personality, but once you cross his path, he'll really wail it out on you. And then you have his assistant, the Snorch, who is this bee-like creature who tends to be very sarcastic and very, very much a deadpan snarker of the whole thing. And then you have the likes of, well, a lot of the other characters in the show, including, let me see right here. Oh yeah, Zimbo is the bee-like monster. And then the Snorch is the one who's a lot huger. And basically with Zimbo and Snorch, they're two monsters that really work well off each other. What, with Zimbo's constant Peter Lorre-like accent and constant deadpan snarks, and the Snorch with his intimidating features and his very man of a few words type of persona, you could see that they really work well with each other. The other entertaining character in this show definitely has to be Simon the Monster Hunter, who is pretty much like a precursor to Denzel Crocker from the Fairly Odd Parents, albeit less bombastic. With Simon the Monster Hunter, he is definitely a bombastic character because he wants to prove that there are monsters existing in the human world, but every single time he seems to have his plans backfire. But at times he proves himself to be a very formidable foe to the monsters, as he will go out of his way to really do his best and try to capture them with a lot of technology that he's come up with and with a lot of gadgets that he can use in order to exterminate them, and even to show to the universities and even to the world that he is the great monster hunter that is very well known to all and will be loved by all and remembered by all. So the cast of characters in Our Real Monsters are pretty much one of the most diverse that I've ever seen, with a lot of great and very colorful and very weird personalities that really help them stand out. You could really see why this show was very much loved for us 90s kids. They have a lot of weird personalities, but that's what makes them stand out. And that's what makes us enjoy their misadventures every single time they're on screen. And, well, what more can you say about them? Each of them have something to offer, and each of them definitely has something that can make you feel rather more intrigued. And then you have the voice acting, which is, as usual, with a lot of Klasky-Csupo shows and even a lot of Nicktoons of the past, and even with Avatar: The Last Airbender's case, is extremely excellent. I mean, here's another cartoon that features the likes of Charlie Adler, which is no surprise because, well, a lot of cartoons that I've watched featured Charlie Adler as the voice actor, and it's no wonder why he's also become my favorite, because he's very well known for his versatility, and with his role as Ickis, he really gives off Ickis's screechy and very hyperactive nature, and at times he gives off his brash and very hilarious nature that really makes Ickis a very interesting and very fun character. With Christine Cavanaugh as Oblina, may you rest in peace, and with her performance, she really gives off Oblina's posh personality. She gives off her pomp, she gives off her snooty nature, and she is pretty much like a precursor to Hermione Granger in terms of how she acts. She manages to really give off all of those characteristics that make Oblina come alive, and she does it with flair and with interest. Then you have David Eccles, who is extremely well known for working behind the scenes in a lot of Klasky-Csupo shows like The Rugrats. With his performance as Crumb, he's able to give a certain charm that could really match well with his gross-out persona and with his deep-throated and, well, very hoarse voice that can really make Crumb a very fun and very happy-go-lucky character that really makes him a lot more fun to see on screen. Then you have Greg Berger as the Grumble. Oh my gosh, is Greg Berger awesome in this role. In fact, this is actually one of his most memorable roles that he's done of all time. And there's no doubt that he's done a lot of stuff in the past and even after Aaahhh! Monsters, which is why he's become very well known in terms of being one of those voice actors that deserves the title of being Man of a Thousand Voices. And with Greg Berger, he does show a lot of charisma and a lot of charm as the Grumble, giving off a lot of memorable lines and a lot of memorable yells that really makes his character come alive. Not to mention Jim Belushi as Simon the Monster Hunter. He manages to really give off his insane personality and really gives him his trademark craziness that really makes him alive. And then you even have other voice actors like the likes of Tim Curry who give off marvelous performances in this show. So overall, what more can I say about Aaahhh! Monsters? It's a show that has held up to this very day and has even helped the likes of Courage the Cowardly Dog get their start, and even a lot of horror comedies that really make this show stand out, which is why it's become so memorable. But unlike the likes of Rugrats or the Wild Thornberrys, it didn't really have that much love or even that much of fame, but it still managed to have its fans and to even have a strong following that a lot of fans of the show really admire to this very day. So with that said, I give Aaahhh! Monsters a well-deserved 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is a very enjoyable show, filled to the brim with memorable characters, very fun misadventures, and of course, a very interesting style of animation that really makes the show even more distinguishable and makes it really stand out. And that's what I really like about Aaahhh! Monsters. It manages to make itself stand out in terms of its animation and in terms of its very lovable characters. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in later as I talk about my top 25 favorite Aaahhh! Monsters episodes. So until then, see you later, everybody.